So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Scooby-Doo. So let's start the series. A 21-year-old man, standing 6 feet 2 inches and wearing black leather pants, a mesh shirt that showcased his solid 12-pack and hard muscles, and black combat boots that reached his calf, wore a short-sleeved, high-collared leather jacket. His name was Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and he was cold and emotionless. He was also one of the world's most famous guitarists, with 2 chin-length bangs framing his face, and one hanging over his face, covering his eyes, which were a blazing light golden orange with slit pupils, fingerless metal-plated gloves, and 2 earrings featuring the kanji for Kyubi in blood red. Before the terrible night when he had to be watched by his drunken godfather, who was responsible for getting his father killed in a dubious deal in New York, a city where crime was rampant, he was as vivacious, joyous, and content as the sun. He hasn't grieved so much since that day. That day, when his life was completely upended like a storm ripping across the sea and ocean, is still fresh in his mind. Rewind to the Uzumaki Namikaze home 7 years ago. As Naruto listened to his godfather and his alleged companions fuck around, he clenched his teeth in barely controlled rage. The giggling and moaning sounds were eroding the ironclad tolerance he had built up for handling such circumstances. He was always aware that his godfather was a fucking man-whore, but this made him feel even worse than before. He invited 10 women to his family's house along with his friends Ebisu, Hamura, and a few other Ika Ika series lovers, and the girls were taking care of them, which made him so angry that his eyes were bleeding into the dark. Jiraiya laughed intoxicatedly with the others. "Hey Naruto, why don't you come on over and get with some of these ladies? Piss of you drunken godfather of mine, my father should have never introduced you to our family. Even now you continue to pile debt upon debt using our family names." Naruto glared at Jiraiya and his friends, including the women who served them, making them freeze in terror as something in his mind exploded and his eyes were filled with pure hatred and monstrous K.I. "W.O. Naruto Gaki, please calm down." Jiraiya gasped at his godson's almost savage fury. The girls got up and gave him a chilly look saying, "No, I won't fucking calm down, Jiraiya. I've had enough of my mother and sisters forgiving you for putting us in debt. I had to work multiple jobs to make ends meet, and you just take my family's hard-earned money and spend it on booze and fucking whores. Get the fuck out of my house and take your fucking fuck buddies with you." Naruto hissed coldly as he pointed at them and toward the door. He grabbed Ebisu by the collar and threw him out the window, shattering it. The neighbors, who were watching the commotion, were horrified to see a group of elderly men fleeing the Uzumaki Namikaze residence with nude whores. Jiraiya growled, "Naruto, that is enough." But all she got in reply was an arrogant smile. "What are you going to do to me? Bring it on, you sack of shit. I've been waiting to beat your ass since I was 10 years old. Let's take this outside. I don't want any blood on my mom's carpet," Naruto said as he stepped outside with purpose, taking off his jacket to reveal a black turtleneck because it was cold. He stood and waited for Jiraiya to emerge, dodging a thrown beer bottle and a cunning haymaker with a savage, viscous smile. "Guess you got sloppy overtime, team," the neighbor said, watching with caution as Kushina Uzumaki's typically happy toddler appeared poised to kill the inebriated guy in front of him. Itachi gestured for his younger brother to simply observe, saying, "Jiraiya, you've been waiting for this for a long time. Now, see what beating Naruto Otuto is going to give you. Come on, Godfather. Thought you were gonna teach me some respect, or are you that much of a weak, pathetic man? I can see why my godmother Tsunade wouldn't even consider marrying you. You only see me as a meal ticket, just like you did my father Minato Namikaze, age 30, died from a stab wound from a gangster in a bar you took him to in New York City." He yelled as he finished stretching, which infuriated Jiraiya. Those who knew Minato were shocked and immediately narrowed their eyes at Jiraiya, including Mabuki Haruno and her husband Kazashi Haruno, who thought that situation was a little too suspicious and went inside to call Kushina and the others on the situation. As the details of that incident began to come together, Sasuke and Itachi's eyes were filled with shock and suspicion. Then, they snarled angry looks at Jiraiya, saying, "Naruto and Ikki kicked that bastard's ass now." Naruto turned to face his surrogate little brother walking down the street with his older brother figure Itachi Uchiha and grinned fiercely. Naruto snarled and ran at unhuman-like speeds, jumping at Jiraiya's head, wrapping his shorter legs around his neck, and delivering the mother of all beatings on his face. "Don't worry, Otuto. This beating will be one he will remember till he dies of old age. What do you have to say for yourself, team? Why did you let me fucking father die?" Jiraiya screamed in agony as his godson's fists were causing his face to bleed severely, like hammers to the head, and it was causing him to gradually lose consciousness. Naruto continued to beat his face viciously, his eyes full of dark rage. He broke both forearms, causing him to scream in pain, and he started choking his neck tightly, much to the immediate horror of Sasuke, Itachi, Mabuki, Hana, and even Anko, who ran outside to stop him. Soon after, they grabbed Naruto, who snarled and choked the man until his eyes rolled to the back of his head. His mind was telling him to kill Jiraiya in order to exact revenge for the death of his father. "Naruto-kun, that's enough. Let him go. What would your mother think if you committed murder?" Naruto's eyes were still completely black, but he gradually relaxed his grip and released Jiraiya, who was then dragged into their embrace while they whispered comforting words to him. Kurenai calmed him down with a soft whisper. "It's all right, Naruto-kun, shush." Before he broke free from their hold, his eyes obscured by his hair. He then dug through Jiraiya's pockets, found a necklace with a locket containing his father's picture, and snatched it away, spitting on Jiraiya's body. "I hope you burn in hell, Jiraiya, when you kick the bucket." Naruto ran off at high speeds, ignoring the calls to return, unknowingly entering the domain of the most vicious gang ever, Ragnarok. 20 minutes later, Naruto simply groaned and drank another cola from his bag to quell his anxiety, but his roiling hatred persisted in spite of the cold liquid. He knew his cousin was hanging out with some friends somewhere along this street, so it just made him feel bad that he was getting the short end of the motherfucking stick while being watched by Jiraiya. His murderous thoughts returned, but he calmed down and carried on walking around the block. But lately, things weren't going his way. He heard a lot of footsteps behind him, so he just walked faster. When he smelled perfume coming downwind, he assumed it was his cousin Daphne and her friends, who were clearly listening to what had happened. He also heard heels and shoes clicking as they ran in this direction, and heard the footsteps of those who were following him quicken, but he simply accelerated until he reached an empty park, where he simply sat down on a bench and finished his last soda. Naruto looked up boredly and asked, "What are you people doing following me?" He saw something that narrowed his eyes. At least 500 gang members each had the symbol for Ragnarok, and he snarled under his breath because he had to deal with them every day when they tried to strong-arm him at work and ended up sending him to the hospital for underestimating him as a child. He then noticed 3 individuals who were radiating more skill and power than the cannon fodder in front of him. "So what brings Ragnarok out into these neck of the woods?" he asked in a sarcastic monotone, causing the wannabe Mohawk douchebags to look irate and not tremble in fear of Ragnarok. He locked onto the number on their gloves and saw the Roman numerals for 5, 6, and 8, 2 of them being men and the last being a woman, each wearing their own style of clothing. He could feel their expectant eyes boring into him, and he returned their looks with blizzard ice coldness. The one wearing the hooded cloak responded harshly, "We were wondering what a child is doing walking around alone on our turf." Yet he was also a teenager. "Oh, really? Well, then tell me why you people are doing stalking around my house and snooping into my personal life. I think I had to brutally mime some smelly doggy boy named Kiba who went through my sister's and my mom's rooms over 10 times in a row," Naruto said. He sighed and moved his hair out of the way. The gang froze when they saw the frosty, ice-cold, fierce golden-orange eyes with a slitted animal pupil. When Naruto said, "Hey dogshit, managed to get your balls dropped lately," several people screamed in laughter, and the 3 figures who were seeing this laughed. A rotund thug snarled, brandishing a butterfly knife switchblade, and the others quickly followed suit, oblivious to the irritated looks from Hermit, Valkyrie, and Thor, who were ready to stop them from doing something foolish. "Listen here, Gaki, get off our turf and go back to your mama's boys so get. Care to repeat that sentence, you fat motherfucker?" The 3 fists objected to the profanity, clearly never having met Tayuya Uzumaki, the most hot-blooded and foul-mouthed girl on the block. Naruto, however, remained silent, but his murderous intent returned full force, and was rising through the roof so much that the air around him was literally freezing cold, and it froze everyone in the vicinity. "I said GGTO out of you mama's boy." He regained his confidence and proceeded to stab Naruto at such slow speeds that it was offensive to a turtle. Naruto grabbed the man's wrist to stop the blade's path and said, "You don't know how to use that blade. Let me show you the correct way." His free hand slapped the weapon up into the air and caught it, and in a flurry of slashes that did not touch the skin, Naruto clicked the switch blade shut. The man's clothes instantly split into tatters and shreds of clothing, leaving him in a thong. Hermit, Valkyrie, and Thor's cheeks turned green as Naruto cried out in disgust, "I really didn't need to see that, ugh." Everything was quiet until Kiba ran at Naruto with a war cry and slashed wildly with another knife. But before he could even get close, Naruto grabbed him by his hair, giving him an angry look, rearing his head back, and slamming a vicious head but that nearly broke Kiba's skull. Naruto knocked the man out with a kick to the neck before finishing with a spin kick that sent him into a nearby pond. One yelled, charging with a baseball bat, "Get him!" Before long, the others failed to see Naruto's now black eyes, and the diabolical, predatory sneer concealed by his hair. "Let's play," 2 hours later, incredulous, the three fists gazed at the bored Naruto sitting atop a heap of comatose people, picking his teeth with a toothpick while his face, hair, and clothes were covered in blood from viciously beating the living daylights out of the Ragnarok cannon fodder. Naruto asked boredly, still feeling like fighting. Is that all these weak pieces of shit are worth, Hermit-san? He glanced at his watch and sighed, knowing that he would have to explain himself later, but he was too exhausted to care. He then kicked off a body jumping in a wide arch, landing on his feet in front of the fists, who tensed but relaxed when he simply walked past them, but they tensed again when he said, "Don't send cannon fodder after me again, or else I won't be as merciful as tonight," before disappearing into the night. The police followed him to interview Naruto, but he groaned as he left, not caring for the startled glances at the thrashing he inflicted on the members of the infamous Ragnarok. 10 minutes later. Great, now I got the cops on my ass. What's next? Daphne and her friends finding me, Naruto grumbled, smoking a cigarette, a habit he kept hidden from everyone to help him relax when he gets angry. However, as he spoke this aloud, he heard the sound of familiar heels clicking. His cold tone made her flinch, and the others did too, until they saw the blood on his clothes and gasped. Naruto, what happened to you? Naruto moaned in frustration and turned his head to see his cousin on his uncle's side, Daphne Blake, with her friends Alice, Miley, and a familiar trio of girls known as the Hex Girls. He raised an eyebrow before turning his head away. What do you want, Daphne? He asked, turning toward her. Daphne asked cautiously. Naruto, why do you have blood on your clothes and head? But all she got was a snort. He responded icily. Why should I tell you so you can go tell your parents to baby me again? Which made her unhappy. Naruto remained mute and did not respond when asked. We're family. We help each other out, right? This child is obviously a loner, and those types don't make any friends at all, the female said, casting sorrowful glances at Naruto. Naruto snorted and grunted, popping his knuckles. I got into an argument with my asshole of a godfather and ended up laying him out on his ass and scared off his whores servicing him and his friends, he said bluntly, rolling his eyes apathetically as he looked shocked. As he explained what had happened, Naruto's shoulders simply slumped, and by the conclusion, they were sobbing with grief for Naruto and disgust and hatred at Jiraiya. It's okay, Naruto. He deserved it, Naruto said, nodding, certain that he was correct. Naruto, I want you to meet my friends the Hex Girls. This is Dusk, Luna and Thorn, and these two girls here are Alice and Miley, Daphne said, turning to face the three of them. They waved shyly at him, and he simply returned the gesture with a slight smile of amusement. Naruto smirked and arched an eyebrow as someone said, Say, Naruto, you know how to play guitar? He hilariously responded, Is the Pope a coward? Which sparked laughter and marked the beginning of Naruto's joining the soon-to-be notorious band. Final flashback. Since that night, Naruto had developed into a mature man and a heartthrob with regard to his thousands of fangirls, though they weren't as dedicated as his most ardent one, Sakura Haruno, Mabuki's daughter, who honestly frightened him by seemingly meeting him at every dark alley after a concert or while he was in his own changing room. The girls didn't like this compulsive stalking, and Thorn demonstrated why she earned that nickname by giving Sakura a grade A ass kick and temporarily chasing her away, but she returned more determined than ever to get him to go out with her. His band was called Scooby, and he made sure to send money into his family's accounts, excluding Jiraiya. His family didn't know where they came from, but they weren't going to look a gift horse in the mouth, and they used the money to buy themselves several homes around the world. His family seemed to gain that regular spark of life even though Minato wasn't there, and Naruto was sure his father would be proud of him. He also continued studying martial arts, learning capoeira, Muay Thai, Jeet Kune Do, and several others, and to his amazement, his strength and speed became literally godlike. When he let loose, it was like flying on the clouds. His musical ability, however, seemed to soar, even though it was comparable to that of Dusk, Luna, and Thorn. He also developed crushes on these two people, who later became his girlfriends after claiming they wouldn't mind sharing because his heart was big enough for them. He also blushed red when they told him to look for more women, even though he felt like he was in the Twilight Zone at the time. He also heard about how they were friends with a group of kids called Mystery Incorporated, solving cases involving ghosts, robberies, and even supernatural forces, and he was amused by how some of the kids like them thwarted the schemes of numerous avaricious plotters, and laughed heartily when they explained how they were caught each time. Hearing knocking, he opened his closed eyes and said, "Yeah, what is it?" in a harsh, monotone voice, to which one of his bodyguards responded coolly, "You and the girls are up, boss," Naruto said, pulling his hoodie over his head to conceal his eyes, which flashed to crimson red, and he grabbed his Scooby guitar, which he had made out of metal rather than wood. It had a black exterior and a picture of a nine-tailed orange-furred fox with his eye color spread out on it that reached the back as well. "Let's do this shit," he said as he pushed open the door and saw Dusk, Luna, and Thorn waiting for him on stage, grinning, pointing out toward the audience. He grinned when he saw his cousin Daphne Blake's familiar orange hair, and he grinned when he saw the mystery gang and his family in the crowd, which caused the lights to become confused. "Ikuso," he said, causing his chi to flare out, confusing the crowd, but the girls smiled, revealing their vampire fangs. Everyone in the crowd cheered loudly and enthusiastically when they saw Kyubi no Kitsune, the lead guitarist and singer of the Hex Girls, as the lighting returned. Kushina and the Uzumaki family in particular were perplexed as to why Kyubi felt familiar to them, and when they heard his voice, their legs turned to nearly jelly from how seductive and alluring it felt. Even Velma's legs were shaking, and she was flushed. "Hey everyone, how are y'all doing tonight?" Thorn's announcement caused the crowd to roar louder, and the girls and hooded figures simply smiled more broadly in excitement. Dusk started beating the drums with a faster tempo and rhythm, while Luna worked hard on her keyboard, producing techno and electronic sounds, and Kyubi effortlessly started strumming notes on his guitar in time with the beat. With a smile, Thorn snapped her fingers, triggering a song they had never played before. All right, girls, I'll do the next one. Keep your panties on," Kyubi said in a gruff, smooth voice that made the girls squeal and made him sigh. The crowd roared in adrenaline to the electric music the song left, and the girls could taste it in the air as they clapped at the audience with grins turning toward Kyubi, who looked at them with rolling eyes. Keeping that emotion in the back of her mind, Daphne tilted her head, wondering why his voice seemed so familiar. She then noticed that Kushina and her parents were thinking the same thing, and she shrugged. "Hit it, babe," the male guitarist said quietly to Dusk as he pulled his guitar to the front to test the strings and note that they were still perfect. Dusk smiled broadly and started a low rumbling beat, and Luna added alarm siren sounds and gun claps that had everyone on their seats. Disturbed and destructible, the powers have summoned me away for another task. Another opportunity to display the colors, my driving force, a pledge I've made to uphold. To obtain the privilege of returning home. After we start, it won't matter what we explain. Unlock the dark destroyer hidden inside. My unlucky companion and my true calling. You'll find yourself in a war you can't win. Oh, Naruto! Minato would be so proud of you, Nedley and Elizabeth Blake thought, grinning piteously as the music played, while Velma, standing next to her friend, flashed a startled look and blushed. Her cousin is cute. Daphne's eyes widened in shock and realization at whose voice that was. That's my cousin. I'll keep you informed. That I've developed into unbreakable, uncorruptible determination, a sight to witness from the opposite direction. There will be certain annihilation. Every wounded adversary will be aware that their adversary needed to be unbeatable. While you are still alive, take one last look around. I can't be destroyed. The Battle Master song at the end. After the song, Kyuubi's oohing sounds and the sight of blood-red, crimson flames shooting into the air and exploding like fireworks, revealing a nine-tailed roaring fox, caused the crowd to roar even louder. Kyuubi gave a thumbs up and was about to declare they were finished when Daphne leaped up and yelled, "Encore!" The crowd repeated the same thing after her. Encore! 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 Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just one song before we turn in for the night. We have a bigger performance for you guys tomorrow after our daily practice, Kyuubi said with a shrug and a smirk. He glanced over the crowd and scowled a little when he saw Kiba, who was still looking inebriated and had two hookers on his arms, laughing, and then his family, who grinned and nodded at him, their eyes wide with surprise. It made Naruto's heart swell before he returned to his Kyuubi persona, and the lights darkened again, revealing only the Hex girls and Naruto's now glowing red eyes. As Soichi-kun? Kushina muttered in shock and happiness before clapping and cheering loudly for him. Soon after, the rest of the Uzumaki family followed suit. Shut me up. Mindless self-deprivation. Oh my, I never knew Soichi-kun would be that hot wearing all those clothes. No wonder he hides under a hood and dark clothes. Mama likes what she sees. Kushina blushed redder than her hair at the sight of his muscles, which made her feel hot downstairs. Naruto was heading to a drink cooler, confusing the crowd, but Dusk and the girls started to blush and drool a little when he threw off his jacket, exposing his face and muscles, causing nosebleeds to erupt from the fangirls in the crowd, who started screaming his name even louder over the music. When she saw Mita and Mio smile at her with the same flushed cheeks, she licked her lips ravenously and flushed. When he opened the bottle of water and sprayed himself with it, many people's mouths went dry as they tried to control the erotic images in their minds, particularly the group of girls with blonde, blue, red, and green hair, Cyber Cookie, if you can guess who they are. Then, everyone saw the tattoos on his chest, which featured two ravens with the Namikaze and Uzumaki family symbols in their claws on the front and back, as well as a howling fox on the front. He grabbed his instrument, walked to the microphone, and began speaking in a demonic voice. Oni-chan looks hot with those tattoos on him, Naruto said, licking her lips and blushing pink when his eyes took on the appearance of a savage animal. The rock and the bass, the treble, and the microphone. I prefer black coffee. Similar to my metal, the rock and the bass, the treble, and the microphone. I prefer black coffee. Similar to my metal, I am eagerly awaiting your knock-up. 1 minute, 1 minute. Within a fucking minute, I am eagerly awaiting your knock-up. 1 minute, 1 minute. In a moment, I'm eager for you to stop talking. Make me look like a badass. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Stop talking. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Make me look like a badass. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Stop talking. Naruto's demonic voice reverberated across the world, appearing to reach far locations and even the worlds of the gods and goddesses who were enthralled by it, particularly a girl who appeared to be a female Naruto. Mei, Karui, Samui, Mabui, Yujiro, Anko, Kurenai, Mikoto, and the Uzumaki family all started swaying their heads to the beat and shouting for their nephew to turn up the volume. Kakashi and Obito cheered and hooped for their nephew, whose musical ability was reawakening long-buried musical lovers within them. Fu's eyes were glassy as her head started to sway to the beat. The rock and the bass, the treble, and the microphone. I prefer black coffee. Similar to my metal, the rock and the bass, the treble, and the microphone. I prefer black coffee. Similar to my metal, I am eagerly awaiting your knock-up. 1 minute, 1 minute. Within a fucking minute, I am eagerly awaiting your knock-up. 1 minute, 1 minute. In a moment, I'm eager for you to stop talking. Make me look like a badass. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Stop talking. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Make me look like a badass. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Stop talking. Naruto put an ear out and mockingly inquired, "What's that you guys want me to go louder?" "Yeah," Naruto said while wildly playing his guitar. Kushina and Naruto locked eyes before Naruto leaped from the platform in the middle of the divided throng and approached his mother, who blushed at the attention and listened to his remarks as they proceeded. Right now, I don't think it's humorous. In the moment, I only want my money. I'm currently en route to the celebration. Right now, I don't think it's humorous. In the moment, I only want my money. I'm currently en route to the celebration. She allowed herself to be enchanted by his strong voice and glazed eyes, and she felt her thoughts give in to the swaying pace and music she had buried as a youngster. It was electric, as if she could feel hands stroking her body. Due to the fact that the break, I'm eager for you to stop talking. Make me look like a badass. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Stop talking. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Make me look like a badass. I'm eager for you to stop talking. Stop talking. Song at the end. Welcome to Crystal Cove, Mom, Naruto said, his eyes softening and returning to their mild golden orange. Kushina shouted as her son grasped her bridal style and leaped like a superhuman, clearing a 25-foot jump back to the stage. That's all for tonight, folks. This is QB and the Hex Girl signing out. The audience cheered and hooped for the groundbreaking rock music performance, but then smoke suddenly appeared on stage and a spooky song started playing, making Naruto narrow his eyes. I never played that track. This is the one our manager kept trying to get us to play, Naruto said as he saw a shadow encircle him. Up in the smoke, he saw a vampire Dracula wearing a top hat, approaching Thorn, who screamed. Naruto's ace baseball home run swing with his QB guitar sent the ghost soaring into nothing after he charged with superhuman speed and aimed a roundhouse at it, knocking its head sideways. Zoinks, that was groovy! Shaggy hooped with Scooby, who ran at Naruto, jumping on him and licking his face repeatedly, getting a warm laugh out of him. All right, down boy, down! Scooby panted happily at the ear scratching he received. The mystery gang was wide-eyed at this point, thinking the ghost would easily get Thorn. Their lead guitarist then pulled off a badass home run baseball swing, knocking it into the mountain as it disappeared. Luna reassured the audience, who nodded and left, saying, All right, folks, head back to your trailers and wait for our exhibition tomorrow. We won't disappoint. That was just one of our backstage guys trying to attract attention to himself. Uzumaki Namake's family front and center. Naruto smiled, and the aforementioned individuals instantly materialized in single file with broad smiles. What, not gonna give me a hug after all these years? Naruto asked them with a serious expression before breaking into a smile and extending his arms. He was instantly devastated by his entire family embracing him tightly. Obito, Itachi, and Kakashi gave him noogies at their younger brother, surpassing them in congratulating him on his accomplishments. Kushina raised his fist, eliciting laughter from Thorn, Luna, and Dusk at the verbal tick. That's my Soichi Databane! Naruto snickered at the angry expressions on the faces of the mystery group, who chuckled at the light-hearted jest. Why don't we show you guys to our headquarters, including the brats over there? That was a groovy performance out there, pal, Naruto said, shaking hands with Shaggy, who was a decent guy. It was no biggie, man. I always had a talent for music and singing. I had to run from hordes of fangirls at least twice a month, 3 if the more infatuated they were, like Sakura Haruno, for instance. He shivered, and so did Sasuke and Itachi. They boarded the tour bus with the band, and Dusk was driving it. The others chatted cheerfully, forgetting what had happened earlier. That harpy used to follow me, and only I sat around at night. It was creepy, Sasuke said, shuddering as Naruto and the boys with fangirl issues gave him a pitying glance. Anko groaned in frustration, wondering who would produce such a monster. Fangirls are evil, and they seem to breathe like rabbits in the heat, he said. I think I saw Mabuki-chan's daughter out in the crowd today, Kushina said, perspiring. Naruto tensed, and a chill ran down his spine, which was noticed by everyone, especially Kushina and his sisters. Oni-kun, what's the matter? Mita asked in a worried tone, as the older man Uzumaki laughed nervously. The others gave me strange looks, with the exception of Dusk, Luna, and Thorn, who all had grimaces on their faces. And Mabuki-chan's daughter has been chasing after me for the past 7 years, and she gets bolder and bolder. She keeps finding me and the girl's address, sending me Valentine chocolate and stuff, but I kept throwing it away, the statement read. Everyone turned to Naruto when he pulled out a box of chocolate that he had mysteriously obtained from his harpy of a fangirl. He broke a piece of it before throwing it out on the road, and they watched a coyote eat it before they cried out in disgust when they saw it mount a jackrabbit and go to town on its back door with a look of ecstasy on its face. Abito asked inquisitively, "What's wrong with her chocolate?" "This chocolate was different," Naruto said in wonder, glancing at the chocolate as though it were tainted and placed so far away from him that even Kakashi shrank back in dread. "I don't think I'm ever gonna be safe around fangirls ever again," said Abito. Kushina shook her head and said, "I think we need to have a little chat with the little pink-haired harpy Andy Kushina." Naruto then observed something and said, "But Bookie-chan is not going to like this." Along with the others, Kushina's countenance darkened, causing dread to rise in his gut. When he linked with the pieces, his eyes widened in amazement, denial, and despair. "Mom, where's Uncle Kazashi?" His eyes were watering, and the mystery gang's eyes were closed in sympathy for the helpless musician. "I can't be Kazashi Toussaint's dead," he said. Naruto begged, "How did he die?" While Kushina wept. "He died the same way Minato did," she sobbed, forcing her powerful son, whose mind was actually filled with hatred and wrath, to embrace her and say, "I swear, Jiraiya, I'm going to kill you." Naruto growled aloud, frightening the other characters. Kakashi, Obito, Itachi, and Sasuke scowled before grimacing in a manner reminiscent of Naruto's nod. "My father died the exact same way Kazashi did, and what's suspicious to me is that Jiraiya was around the time the murder happened, and I am starting to think these debts he piled on our family aren't really money debts," they said. They frowned in their minds and vowed to keep the information from the others. "Assassination and access to the Uzumaki and Namake's clan fortune," they said. "Well, the tour's ruined, so you guys are gonna be staying at our secret mansion right here in Little Crystal Cove," Thorn said, his face brightening as the band smiled and sped up, letting out loud squeals without noticing a few cars following them. However, an orange-furred fox appeared to disappear into the ground in the direction of the hidden mountains. After an hour, the mouths of everyone but Naruto, Thorn, Luna, and Dusk fell in shock and wonder as Luna bowed dramatically and spread her arms across their field of vision. "Welcome to Naruto Baby's Paradise," she said. A family of 10 could fit in each of the 4 pools in the backyard, which was filled with trees and green grass of life. Kushina even squealed when she saw rabbits, and there were families of foxes, wolves, and even squirrels that appeared pleased to see Naruto and the Hex girls. The mansion was painted blood red and had black marble pillars. She also noticed a football field and basketball court next to each other, as well as a volleyball court, which made everyone smile broadly because they knew this would be fun. They never realized that such life could be grown on a mountain. They also noticed that there were bodyguards patrolling the grounds and 2 guarding the doors. Based on the look in their eyes, they appeared to be former military personnel or trained fighters, but the joyous gleam in their eyes at Naruto showed them that they weren't doing this for financial gain. Everyone rushed into the house as soon as Naruto turned to them and grinned broadly, saying, "Well, what are you guys waiting for? Let's have some fun." They were all astonished by the house's red walls and ceiling, as well as its royal-style decor, and the fact that it had several bedrooms with queen-sized beds, plush bedding, and separate bathrooms with all the amenities needed for personal hygiene. The refrigerators, which were actually 4 inside a large kitchen, were filled to overflowing with a variety of foods, beverages, and staple fruits and vegetables. Tayuya, Mita, Mito, Kei-chan, Karen-chan, Keian-chan, Kurinai-chan, Amaru-chan, Fuka-chan, Fuki-chan Oniai-kun has an aslowed stash of fucking ramen down here. Naruto shouted from the kitchen near the cabinet, drawing attention from the aforementioned individuals as they rushed downstairs, knocking each other over, and almost dusk. Luna, Ren, and Thorn wore revealing swimsuits, while the Hex girls wore teal blue, dark red, and purple, respectively. As they continued their ramen feast of heaven, much to the horror of the chefs inside at their raging stomachs, he called out from above, receiving yells of confirmation. "Hey, don't eat up all my ramen. I had to spend some cash just to buy all of that shit." A butler approached Naruto with a displeased expression. He had black hair and red eyes. "Sebastian, is something wrong?" he asked, with a vein bulging over his eyelid. Naruto got a displeased expression in his eyes before walking downstairs, his footsteps truly taking everyone by surprise. "Master Naruto, a drunk man, a couple of whores, a doggy-smelling boy, and a few of Miss Dusk, Luna, and Thorn's fanboys are causing trouble by the front entrance," Naruto said. Luna said, oh, Naruto-kun is, oh shit, he's breaking out the guitar, Dusk. Thorn, we gotta stop him," and ran after a composed Naruto who was dragging his guitar behind him. She heard shouting, arguments, and chuckles, as well as the smell of alcohol, so she decided to move on. When Naruto pushed the doors open to announce his presence, he saw an older Kiba standing in front of the guards with a frown on his face, Jiraiya, his drunken sack of shit self, and 3 fervent geeky brats staring around with amazed expressions. This annoyed him so much that he decided to ignore the guards' apologetic looks and thought, "There's no reason to get mad at them since it's him they are dealing with. At least they tried to stop them. I'll give them a pay raise later," refocusing on the intruders. With a cold tone, Naruto said, "Shit breath, drunk, what are you doing on my lawn?" This made the maids and butlers, with the exception of a smirking Sebastian, freeze and turn to look at the situation, as well as the Uzumaki Namake's family, with annoyance and anger. Jiraiya laughed, saying, "Come on, Naruto, we all know you couldn't have afforded this place that's only fit for someone like me, Hick, and I have some debts that need paying, and I could use your assistance with them, Hick." Everyone except the intruders noticed the change in Naruto's demeanor, which just screamed murderous intent. Sayo Yamamoto and her twin Kasumi Yamamoto, both seasoned battle maids, who handle intruders and clean up after them, cried angrily, "Mr. Naruto kicked that perverts as he tried to grope me." Naruto, upon hearing this, glared at the targets of his ire. "Krauser, Vector," the 2 former Umbrella Corporation soldiers said, turning their heads to recognize. "Yes, boss," both of them said simultaneously. "Get some transportation ready to ship these pests back to their homes, and get them to their planes since neither are supposed to be at the concert without a ticket, and I can tell when someone doesn't," said Naruto, pulling up his sleeves boredly. Both of them nodded and smiled as they left to follow their boss's instructions. The fanboys attempted to run past Naruto with sick expressions on their faces as he ran at him with his fists raised, saying, "I came to pay you back for those years back, and bastard, and I'm going to show your sisters and mom who's a real man." However, Naruto threw his guitar into the air, stunning him with a sharp punch to the stomach, 2 machine gun punches to the face, and a high kick that sent him tumbling across the ground, knocking Jiraiya and the girls over. The audience was astounded by the blade's skills and the calmness in his eyes as he twirled the sheathed blade, deflecting the incoming strikes. "How is Soichi so good?" Dusk smirked as one of the whores suddenly pulled out 2 Japanese tantos and darted at him, twirling them like an expert, much to the horror of the others watching. "Ryu Katana!" A brown-haired man threw Naruto a sheathed custom-made katana, and immediately deflected the left and right strikes as soon as the woman was within range. "Naruto went all around the world with us, even visiting the Hayabusa village out in the Eastlands. His main trainer was Ryu Hayabusa, Hate and Joe Hayabusa, and even Kureha Hayabusa and Memoji, training him in the arts of a ninja, archery, bombs, shuriken, kunai, swords, bow, tonfas, all sorts of weapons used to inflict death back during their era, but he trained under them in even priestess abilities, that means driving demonic taint from the body, and he's good if not better than Memoji and her sister, who have the talent in their blood." She explained, much to their amazement. Thorn added her advice. "We asked him why learn all of the killing mess, and he just said he had a feeling in his gut that his life would not be normal in the slightest, and Naruto's gut feeling has never failed him at all." Her tone was serious when she talked, in that in her voice she wasn't lying. She was Calypso Briggs, one of the top assassins, and she wouldn't let this brat 3 years her junior beat her. She aimed a stab at his groin, which he only slightly jumped at, grabbing the sword between his muscled slim legs, twisting the blade off, breaking it, and then punching her in the head to knock her out. The scantily clad woman was frustrated. She was a trained assassin hired by Jiraiya-sama to appease him and eliminate any targets in order to obtain the Uzumaki Namikaze family wealth, which was reported to contain more money than thousands of multi-billionaires now, thanks to the efforts of the boy-turned-man in front of her. "It seems one of them doesn't feel comfortable in your presence, Jiraiya Baka," Naruto said, hinting to the girl next to Jiraiya, who was given a wide-eyed look by Kali Liana, who slowly slid from his side. He nodded toward the guards, who had her handcuffed and put aside with Kiba and the geeky fanboys, while Jiraiya scowled at the Asian woman, who was scantily clad and appeared uneasy in his presence. "She's nothing special. She just needs to do her job in showing you the wrongs of you defying your godfather, boy." The pervert sneered, only receiving a bored look in return. "One move is all it will take to take care of you, scum," Jiraiya said, turning red in the face. However, Naruto simply leaped high into the air, shocking them with his superhuman agility. He pushed off a pillar like a falcon dive and reached the old pervert behind his head, gripping his collar. When he hit the ground, he literally slammed him hard with the impact, leaving a small crater. This confused Naruto, who flexed his hand while narrowing his eyes and noticing the black wispy aura around it. "Escort them out and up the security. I'm heading to the pool to relax," the guard said, nodding. When they realized it was nighttime, everyone went to sleep, and 3 females spent a memorable evening at the pool with Naruto. Because the water was bubbling instead of being chilly as usual, Naruto groaned and stretched his limbs to get rid of the kinks. He was perplexed when he felt a deep-seated, primordial wrath and continued to gaze lustfully at the females, including Thorn, Dusk, and Luna. He felt a set of arms around his chest and ended up kissing Dusk, who had a pink flush and lustful eyes. He also saw 2 pairs of hands on his thighs and gazed into the same passionate eyes as Luna and Thorn. "Naruto, baby, are you all right?" he said. The 2 girls in front blushed when a tent started to rapidly form in front of them, and they bit their lips to stop themselves from moaning, unaware that a certain orange-haired Blake was watching with interest and anticipation. Dusk licked her lips slightly as she moved her eyes up and down his body, and the other 2 were obviously doing the same, as evidenced by their nipples sticking through the fabric of their bathing suits. Luna also licked the whisker marks on his face, causing him to shudder deeply. "Baby, we have a certain fire in us that needs quenching," Dusk exclaimed, slamming her lips into his, making his eyes widen with animalistic desire. He then kissed her back with equal vigor as the 2 made out in front of the other 2 Hex girls, who joined in, making it a 4-way kiss. Naruto, who was growing increasingly aroused as he noticed what they wanted to do, found this to be hot. When Luna yanked his shorts with a puppy pout and let them be dragged off and flung aside so that his package could be seen, Dusk blinked and groaned as he rubbed her breasts through the cloth and grounded her moist core against the tent in his shorts, rousing him even more. "Come on, girls. We have our daily sparring with Ryu-sensei and Krauser-sensei," they said, nodding and slipping back into their bathing suits before returning to their rooms, though Thorn lingered for a moment, glaring at a flushed Daphne with a Cheshire grin. "We don't mind sharing, just to let you know, Daphne," they said, laughing until she passed out from a nosebleed. With Kushina. "Holy shit, he's fucking hung," thought Mito, Naruto, and Kushina as she sat on the bed confused with a nosebleed next to Mito. Tayuya was flushed from masturbating violently in the bathroom a few hours earlier, and she still wanted her cousin so badly. "MMH Soichi-kun," Kushina said as she and the others fell asleep, thinking about her Adonis of a kid.